Hi, guys. It's Cassandra Burks. You're listening to 104.5 My City. And now for our next segment. And this is really, really, really good. And it's profound with Mr. Terrence Graham. And thank you so much, Mr. Terrence Graham, for coming on this interview. Now, Mr. Graham, he has some things that have happened in his life, and I want to shed light on his story because it's very important surrounding the things that are going on nationwide in this country, and especially for our young folks. But listen, in 2003, there was a 17-year-old Terrence Graham, not the man that he is today, but he made a serious mistake and was convicted of a home invasion robbery. His attorney recommended 5 years, the prosecutor recommended 30, and Terrence was sentenced to die in prison. Now, his case made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, SCOTUS, where a landmark ruling declared life imprisonment without parole for juvenile offenders for a non capital offense was unconstitutional. This was a violation of the Eighth Amendment, and cruel and unusual punishment was why. Now, although hopeful with the Scottish ruling, at the age of 19, Terrence Graham found himself an inmate in the Florida prison system, sentenced to 25 years. Now, this past few years, Mr. Graham, at 37 years old, has finally been released after serving 20 years, okay, for an offense committed when he was a teenager. Through resilience and constant fighting, Graham sought personal redemption and became an important force in the fight for humane treatment of juvenile offenders. Now, this is Mr. Graham. This is his story. Let us show some respect. Okay, how are you doing today, Mr. Graham?
I'm doing all right, and thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here, most certainly. I want to discuss a few things with you. That there was a Graham versus Florida involving yourself, and the major legal change that came from this case was the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that juveniles under 18 cannot be sentenced to life without parole for non-homicide crimes. And the court said that the kind of punishment violates the Eighth Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. Now, the ruling in accord with yourself, it led to many states changing or revising juvenile sentencing laws. And juveniles already serving those sentences getting new sentencing hearings or parole opportunities. And courts began requiring to consider a child's age, maturity, and ability to change before imposing extreme punishments. What are your thoughts about this?
It was something that was much needed. I can say when I was attending high school and middle school, I never thought or heard of a juvenile being sentenced to die in prison. So when it actually happened to me, like I was just blown away that a sentence like this was allowed to happen, and especially to me because I didn't have a juvenile criminal record. I didn't go to programs. Or I wasn't in and out of the detention center where I was like a known as what we'll call a troublemaker. So this was like my first arrest, and came off a violation, and it was just something that was much needed. It was something that guys 10, 15, 20 years before me was arguing, but their case was never making it to the Supreme Court or getting overturned. So it was like God chose me to be the voice to open up those gates for those guys.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know when we go into this, now that you're out, there's things that you have to face. You have to face the scrutiny from society, and some people feeling like, hey, he committed a crime, let him sit in there, right? And then
Right.
you face the people who are supportive of you, who say, you know what, you messed up. And there's children who mess up. They take things out of, grocery stores, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. And what if they were the ones that were hit with a theft charge or, stealing or anything like that? So, how does this affect you now that you're out and you have to deal with society and deal with those types of people who look at you in these different ways?
Well, it's been a struggle mentally. I can honestly say that. For 20 years, I used to sit there, hope and dream like of being out here in the free world and wondering what life would be like for me. And I guess I kind of like stayed mentally stuck at the age of 17 because when I came home, I was looking for those same relationships that I had when I was, before I went in because that was all I was familiar with. But coming out here, experiencing like the workforce for the first time, or experiencing
Mm,
relationships, or even experiencing, my parents, like we didn't know each other anymore. And I had to learn that we couldn't pick up where we left off at. Like my mom was not the same mother as she was in 2003. And I was not that 17-year-old child that she once knew. Like I have been dealing with a lot of trauma. I have, dealt with a lot of pain and hurt and anger that was balled up over the years. And, vice versa, like people that have been out here in society have took its course on them. Of course, I was raised in poverty. So, my mom, them, they haven't came too much far from poverty from when I was a child. It was like coming out here and still seeing them, financially in the same struggles, or, even worse. It was hard. And, like I believe when I came home, two of my brothers was, incarcerated. They didn't get a chance to see me walk out those gates. And this was something that we prayed for years. So dealing with all of this, and having a spotlight on me with, cameras talking about my release, and just seeing the
mhm,
backlash from social media, it was some people that was like, hey, he's coming home, that's great. And then you had other people, which was negative, like, oh, he'll be back in 6 months. Like, he shouldn't have got out. And it's like, you making these assumptions even before you get to know who I am, or
mhm,
why these crimes were committed. I never denied that I didn't commit those crimes. It's never right to commit any crime. But we do, as people, go through
mhm.
things and get to our breaking point where it's like, what do we do now?
What do we do now? That's the thing. And I think a lot of people, and it's coming out even now with people getting arrested from fraud with Medicaid and Medicare, or receiving benefits and then getting paid a little bit more at the work and not reporting it. I think that if we literally sit down and look into each and every person, that we'll be able to find something murky and that has been done over the years, whether it's taxes, whether it's forgetting to, get that identification card within 30 days once we move to a different area, whatever it is. And so, because no one's perfect. And so we all make mistakes in the spirit realm, but then also in in the realm of things we can see, we also make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so did you grow up with your father? Was your dad in the home? What did he feel about the decision that you made?
Well, my dad was in the home, but he was not in the home, if that kind of made sense. I mean, he was there physically, but I can never recall a time where my dad actually hugged me and told me he loved me, or came out in the yard and threw the football with me or anything. Like I was very good in sports. Me and my brothers, we was all athletic. And, I can count on one hand how many games my dad attended. And we played maybe hundreds of games. So he was there, but he wasn't there. Like I can't even tell you like what my dad um taught us as, like, hey, this is what you're going to need as being, a teenager, or
Hmm.
here goes some life skills that you're going to need to be a man in life. So, yeah, he was there, but he wasn't there. And that was because he was dealing with his own issues. My dad was
Hmm.
a Vietnam veteran. He, straight out of the Vietnam, he got addicted to crack cocaine, and he just didn't understand, like, had the resources to help him to be able to, be a father that he needed to be for me and my siblings.
Wow. You have a profound story. That's so inspirational because it's like you've gone through so much and you're still here being positive. Before we went ahead and came on live, right? You said something about God. And it's just that you have a belief and a spirit about yourself that is so mature. And I know you're still looking and working to find your daily routine, right? So to
Right.
speak. So what works for you and what do you want to do now? Do you want to become a business owner? Do you want to work for someone? Are you looking for a job opportunity? And those are the things that you have to consider. And again, amidst, people who don't think that you deserve the right to be free. But that's not their decision. And we learned that's God's decision. And see, God gave you the opportunity. He put it in the hearts of those judges of that Supreme Court Okay, to not only release you, but to allow other people who have been in a similar situation and making decisions just like you to have the opportunity to have what's called a second chance.
Right.
Okay. And that is something that is profound. And I understand that it better than a lot of people do. So, but one thing I want to ask is that you're in connection with a Ricky Welsh, and we're going to get deeper into your story as well. But I wanted to ask, you're in connection with a Ricky Welsh, and he's went through something similar to you. Now he
Right.
was arrested as a juvenile
Right.
in Detroit,
Right.
and he served over 20 years as well.
Right.
And they did a movie about him. And he's, taken to a few social media platforms to tell his story.
Right.
But his release had to do with what you were able to get overturned via the Supreme Court.
Right.
So that's interesting that you were able to influence and help people even in other states as far as Michigan from where you were.
Right.
And I just think that that's profound. Now, what do you feel about yourself knowing that even though there was some bad, you did some bad, but you served your time. You
Right.
paid your dues. You did what was necessary in order to be free. How do you feel? Are you proud of yourself that even though that's happened, you were still able to help other people out?
Right. I'm definitely I'm just humble and grateful that God chose me to be the one um to open up the gates for others. And Richard Worship has became like a big brother to me. We actually served time here in Florida. Like we was in the same dorm for 3 years, and I was with him during the time when he was actually signing the contracts and finishing up the movie. And just to hear his story, it's amazing. I mean, he's a very good guy. Like he helped thousands of people himself and continue to advocate since he's been out. And it's a lot that people don't really know about his case. I would like for him to explain it better, but I will share this with you. Like, Richard Worship was, he done the most time in the United States
Hmm.
as a juvenile for a non-homicide offense. So a lot of that gets overlooked. And I believe he spent like 34 years in prison altogether before he was finally released. So
Hmm.
he has an amazing story. He has a humble heart, and he continued to be there and advocate. And he have since been released. He have, I think, helped over um I believe 10 or 15 individuals get released, um, and also work with numerous of organizations that are, fighting for the cruel and unusual punishment, and to,
Hmm.
give people a second chance. So, yeah, I was the reason that Richard Roshi got his shot. He was sentenced to life in prison
Yeah.
for non-homicide, and, because of the ruling in my case, it gave him what we call it's like it's a sentence review. It's almost like a parole for the juvenile offenders to go back and show like what we have done over the years, and do we deserve our freedom? And he was one of the ones that was able to benefit off of it. And since being out, he hit the ground running. So I'm very grateful to have come in contact with him, and just to know that, I open up the doors for him and many others that are, doing great now, and that's something that don't get talked about, because there's a lot of juveniles
Hmm.
that have been released right now that was once told that they would die in prison and are out here hitting the ground running, like being executives, being business owners,
Hmm.
authors, and advocating, and being leaderships over nonprofit organizations, and the fight continues. So it was something that was needed and continue on.
No, absolutely. And I spoke with him briefly, and hopefully, guys, I'll be able to get him on the show. I'm definitely in works with that. But what I can say, he is a very respectful young man. And he he's just the way he speaks and the way he tells his story is so profound that it will move you to crying even when you speak, kind of, because you can see the genuineness in your eyes and in your face, and you can also see some of the pain.
Yes.
You can see some of the pain, and it just makes you want to tear up and say, you know what, God has you and I support you. I love you. No matter what it is that you've done, there's redemption. Some of the worst people have done some of the worst things and God has forgiven them. And who am I as God's child to say, "Father, don't forgive this person?" And then who am I to say once the Father has forgiven that person, because ultimately that's who the sin is against. Not me. I didn't give you life. God did. So who am I to say if he forgives you and continues to give you life that you don't deserve a freedom, that you don't deserve love, that you don't deserve all the things that God promised to you, right? So that's amazing that that's your story. And even though you had to go through some things, that's amazing. That look at where you are right now. Okay. So I know a lot of times we don't discuss, some of the things that you go through in there. Was it difficult for you in juvenile? I know juvenile is a little bit different from, the main adult
Mhm.
institutions. Were you transferred into the adult institutions underage, or did they just send you there once you aged out? Or how did that go?
Well, because I had so much time, I was not allowed to go to a juvenile facility with the other kids my age. So I was sent directly to an adult camp.
What?
What happened was when I was coming through the reception center, I was 130 pounds, 5'3", like I can remember it like yesterday. And I was around came to prison with maybe like 80 different males from all over the state of Florida. And it was just buses pulling up after bus pulling up. And, we went through the process of intake, which is very humiliating and traumatizing. So after I went through that process, I just seen like five officers coming with chains, and I just hear my name being called. So I'm kind of like panicking because I don't know what to expect. I just heard so many stories about prison and how, guys get jumped on or officers do things to you. So I end up like raising my hand and telling them like this me. And it was like, Graham, put your hands behind your back. You're going to confinement. And I was like, sir, did I do anything wrong? It was like, we'll tell you when you get there. So I left intake and went straight to confinement and I was housed by myself. And I was told that I was being evaluated for 7 days because at that time the state didn't know how to classify me. Like they didn't know what camp to put me at, like because I couldn't go around the other juveniles because I had too much time. And a lot of juveniles that was at the juvenile facilities, I believe like the most you can have over there is like 20 to 25 years. And because I had life, I needed to be around adults. And I was told like I was had too much time to be around the kids, and they was like I was too small to be around adults. So they was kind of balancing with how to place me. So they classified me as what you call a YOA, a youth offender adult. I did 7 days in confinement when I first got to prison, and I was finally released, and they sent me to an adult camp. But within those 7 days, it's like I'm sitting in there and I'm like going crazy because I'm trying to figure out like what's going on, why am I being, separated, what would happen. So I didn't get a chance to even transition into prison like most guys do. I went straight to the hole. And that was the start of me like not knowing in the near future, in the next couple of months, that I will spend a lot of time in and out of the box for one reason or another.
Wow. So let me ask you something. When it came to, you were actually, as a juvenile, mixed in with adults.
Right.
Wow. 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 I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. And I don't want you to relive it, a thing when I ask you this,
Mhm.
but was it rough for you as a child, as a young child, who we would ordinarily in our community, civilization want to protect, okay? A
Mm,
young black male child in prison with adults, I could only imagine some of the things you had to deal with.
right. Well, it was very hard. I mean, I was experiencing a lot of things for the first time. So, coming into prison is already a scary environment. So you have a lot of guys that's pulling you in different directions. Like, so you're gonna have different gangs trying to recruit you. You're gonna have different religion segments trying to recruit you. You're gonna have the officers like they used to make fun and make statements when you get to the compound. They used to tell us like, "Hey, look, there's no checking in. Either you're going to become someone's girlfriend or you're going to stand up and fight." And officers used to bet on inmates, like
Wow.
just off of all physical appearance. Like, okay, if you look small or if you look like you'll be taken advantage of, they were like, "Hey, well, I bet he won't last 1 week, or you will see him, being somebody's girlfriend in the next month or so." So it's like the minute you get to the compound, like you have to prove who you are, or who you're going to hang with and things of
Hmm.
that nature. So, just imagine like I got into a dorm where, because I had a life sentence, I was always in what we call closed custody. And that's for like a lot of people that either get in a lot of trouble or have a lot of time. So, you have some guys that, everybody's walking around with shanks and knives, or lock in a sock, or, with their gang brothers. So, they preying on the weak. So you have to come in there like they have what you have TOH, the test of heart, where they're gonna send somebody at you as soon as you enter the dorm. Like whether somebody may just come to your room and be like, "Hey, let me get your shoes or let me get your blanket or whatever." And if you say no, it's like, "Okay, well, come on, let's fight." So you're gonna experience all of this, and the determine on how well you can fight will determine, like, what respect you will get. If you go in there and you lose your first fight, and you have a lot of people that's gonna, they're gonna try you like, "Hey, this guy can't fight, so whatever he get is mine," or they are making bets on you. So you're gonna go through it. And at this time in prison, there was no cameras. Guards are not in the dorm with you, so it's
Hmm.
like you're just thrown out here and you saying
And you had
some.
to go through that as a juvenile?
Yes.
And you had to go through that as a juvenile with adults. My heart just, oh my goodness. And I'm so glad that things are turning around though. And I'm sorry that it had to be you to experience some of these things, to go through some of this, but it seems like as from a child, there's so much love and protection that people in your community should have given you to
Right.
protect you, to make you feel at ease in your mind. And then you had to grow up and see. So, I guess, is it difficult for you to trust humanity at this point in time after everything that you've gone through? Do you think that you'll be able to have a full life still? Do you think that that could be your story?
I'm praying one day that I do. I mean, I know that I'm still healing from a lot of trauma, from a lot of pain. Actually, before this show, I mean, maybe within this week alone, I've been dealing with a lot of mental struggles. So, I have been seeking counseling and everything, because trauma just doesn't go away overnight, and you can't just bury what has happened to you. And I believe that that's what society feel us as being, coming back into society. They just feel like, "Hey, you're supposed to pick up um, and become this great person," without giving us any resources or help, or not really addressing what we went through and giving us the tools that we're going to need to heal from it. Because for 20 years, like, I was alone. Like, I didn't have my family. I didn't have my mother to be a mother to me. I didn't have my dad or my brothers. I was in there by myself. I was in a whole nother world, and I had to survive. So, by the grace of God, I did survive, but I went through so much. I mean, I was at a time I went on CM. CM is what we call closed management, and it's like 23-hour lockdown. You're supposed to come out for an hour a day, and because DOC do what they want to do. Sometimes it was 24 hours a day. I remember, I can go 2, 3 months without even coming out of a cell, and I was housed by myself,
Oh,
and
wow.
things like that. You just don't forget. I remember being beat up by staff members.
What?
Um,
As a
it, it's
juvenile or when you became an adult, they would still hit
uh,
you?
well, when I became an adult, I mean, they're hard on the juveniles because they feel like a lot of us, like we haven't learned, and a lot of juveniles, they just coming in, and everybody's trying to find their place, so everybody's trying to be tough. You're being rebellious because
Right.
you don't really want to come off as being weak, so the officers are being extremely hard on you. And as you go to transitioning from, juvenile, young adult to, a full adult man, we are not the same as, an adult experiencing life out here because we don't have responsibilities of that nature. I remember trying to get my GED when I was in prison. At a point in time, they had stopped allowing guys that had life sentences or guys that had 20, 30 years to enroll in education vocation because
Wow.
they were saying we would never get a chance to be able to use it. So we was just they wanted to monitor who they give the state money to be able to get these resources. So you had to have under 3 years just to be able to get a vocation or education. So it was like a lot of times guys that had time like me, we meet up in the in the law library, and we was teaching each other how to read or teaching each other math problems, and so that we
Wow.
can, when we do get the opportunity to get our GED testing or whatever, that we can pass it. So it was a lot that we experienced, and
Did
like
you
I
ever get your
said,
GED?
yes, I ended up getting it.
Congratulations. That's good to
Thank you.
hear. Did you ever go any further? Did you go to college or any school or anything like that?
Yes, I actually attended Ohio University while incarcerated. I did one semester. I didn't get a chance to finish my schooling because at this time, they wanted me to pay for my schooling out of pocket. So I had to pay for all of my classes. I wasn't able to get any grant or funding like some students can out here in society. They wasn't allowing inmates to get funding. So I didn't
Hmm.
have enough money to be able to finish my education while I was in there, but I did finish one semester. I believe at the time while I was enrolled, I had like a 3.5 GPA.
Wow.
So I was doing good.
Mr. Graham, you're smarter. You're smarter than a lot of people.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
smarter than a lot of people out here that like to think that they're on a high horse. Let's just put it like that. Would you
right.
like to finish getting your degree? Would you like to,
Um,
is that something you'd like to pursue?
yes, that's actually something on my to-do list. I mean, since being out, I have had to manage so much and build a life from scratch. So it's like when I came home, I didn't come home like a lot of other people was. So that's something else about my story. I didn't just get straight release. I had to go to a transition house. I went there for a whole year. I had to take a bunch of classes. I ended up working 2 jobs when I came home. And, it was just like I came home on house arrest. So I wasn't able to actually experience my freedom like a lot of people do. And even right now, after 2 years, I'm still on house arrest. So, um,
What does that look like? House arrest is that you can't leave the house at all, or is it that you can't leave and then certain times you have to be in? And how long is that supposed to last until you're able to be free, Mr. Graham?
well, house arrest is I cannot leave the house. I have to put in a weekly schedule. Every week, I turn in a schedule on where I'm going to go, what time I'm going to be there, and what time I will be back to the house. So I'm only allowed to go to work, home. I can go to church, and I'm allowed a grocery store run once a week for an hour. After 90 days, they had started giving me furloughs, but my furloughs consisted of 4 months. I mean, 4 hours a month, which roughly is like 10 minutes a day. So the furloughs really is nothing because if I was to say, well, I want to go to my mom's house, it take me anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes in traveling time to get there, 20 to 30 minutes to
Wow.
get back. So that's an hour. So I only have 3 hours to go and spend with my family. So concurrently, after 2 years of being out, I still can't tell you what my mother living room looked like.
Wow. So are they coming to visit you?
Well, they have visited me uh several times, but not as much I would like. Like I said, society has had its way with us. I mean, my mom, she works 6 days a week. My brother, he works 6 days a week. So it's just like
Wow.
we don't really have the time to really like bond like we really needed to build a relationship over again. You know, we do talk on the phone and we do see each other here and there, but it's not enough time for us to build a bond. Like I said, I have spent more time around guys in prison than I have my own family. So
Wow.
I'm just adjusting. I mean, sometimes it does bother me because for the most part, like I'm sitting in the house like I was off work today and I'm sitting in an empty house. So it's almost like I'm still incarcerated. Like it's almost like I never left prison. I
You
just
just got a
think
bigger
about
cell, so to
right,
speak.
right.
Oh, my heart goes out to you. Now, I do want to know if someone wants to help you. Actually, let me ask you this. Have you gotten married? Have you decided that whether or not you want to have children yourself since you've been home?
Well, I haven't got married. I have been in a few relationships and before I was ready, I can say that and they kind of like told me apart. I have experienced children for the first time. I had a set of twins, two twin girls, and they like my pride and joy. I mean, there
Oh,
was a lot of
man.
complications with them. That's something that's I mean, we can speak about on another date.
Absolutely.
They was born at 24 weeks, and they have suffered a lot of disabilities, and
Hmm.
they was fighting for their life, and it almost made me feel like my kids was symbolic to what I was going through. I was on the inside fighting for my life and my freedom, and out here, my kids
Wow.
with you for 7 months. So
Wow.
for 7 months straight. I mean, when I got off work, I was at the hospital. They was born at 14 ounces, and they have been in countless surgeries and just a lot. And I mean,
I just want
it's
to give you some hope in that. I have a daughter that was a 27 weeker,
mhm,
and she stayed in the NICU. She has autism now. She'll be 10 years this year.
right.
And, the doctor said, give up. People said, give up, and I didn't because that's my baby. Kind of like you, those are your babies. That was my baby. I didn't give up. And today she has autism. And they told me, she'll never be able to do this, this, and this. And some of the things that they told me that she'll never be able to do, she's doing it. So I don't want you to give up hope because, again, I'm experiencing life through her, and it is so profound. It's unlike anything of the quote unquote norm. Because what is norm? Norm is something that we set the tone for, right? We
Oh,
create our reality and we respond to the way that we look at things. And that becomes our reality, our situation. And so, with your mentality and how positive you are and how God focused and driven you are, I believe that God will move miracles and mountains for you and those babies. So I have that faith. Is there any way that people who listen in can help you, can donate to you, can help you in any way, have a better relationship with your family? Is there anything that we can do to support you, Mr. Graham? And
oh,
I know money because I'm sure you need that. Do you have like a cash app, or how can we find you to help and support you? And what do you need?
excuse me 1 minute.
That's all right. That's all right. You've been through a lot, so just take your time. You've gone through so much, and people actually genuinely love you. And it's nothing that you've done for us. It's just because you are who you are. That's it. Just because we don't want anything from you. We don't need you to make any sacrifices to be anybody other than who you are. But brother, we love you because that's what God put in our hearts. So we want to figure out what we can do to help you in any way, even if it's just an ear, even if you just need a shoulder to cry on.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, any support in any type of way is very appreciative. Um, like I said, it's a lot that I had to deal with in there, and then just coming out here trying to find out like who I am today in 2026, and just trying to be the best version of myself. I mean, uh, it's hard. Like I said, I have many struggles and challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis, and
But you are a strong man. You are. And who you were back then doesn't have to be who you are today. Because guess what? It's not. You're a totally different person now. And you don't owe anybody any more apologies. You've done your time. You have served. You've overextended your time. Okay, you did your time and some. So that part of beating yourself up or feeling bad about what you did, we can move on from there. But the things that happened to you and the things that adults were supposed to protect you from, let me tell you, I'm sorry that they didn't protect you. I'm sorry that they didn't stand up for you, that they didn't fight for you. I'm sorry. But now we can move on. We can get the help that you need. We can make sure that you have the option and availability to heal at your own time
yes, ma'am.
because you deserve that. You know why? Because you're a human being. It's not because you've done anything or you have a business, a big business or have put so much back into the community. That has nothing to do with it. You are human and you deserve it because you're human, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So please tell us if you can. I don't want to drag this on forever for you because I know that you probably want to take some time and kind of deal with what's going on without all the cameras in your face, with all the people asking you to relive at every moment everything that you've gone through. But I do want to have you on the show again
Yes,
only
ma'am.
when you're ready and if you want to talk about things though because
Yes,
you've gone through so much. But before we get off of this segment or in our segment and interview, I want to ask you where can we send money to? How can we at least follow you or get in contact with you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Terrence Graham. Facebook is Terrence Graham as well. Terrence, last name Graham, Graham. Also on TikTok, Terrence Graham. Cash App is the same thing, Terrence Graham, Terrence, Graham, Graham 87, which was the year that I was born. And I just thank you all so much for the love and support and just being able to lean on y'all right now at a vulnerable moment in my life.
Absolutely. And like we said, it's all love, Mr. Graham. You are a profound, phenomenal man. And the things that you have done for our juvenile, God will continue to bless you because you're helping his people, even through your own trials. And remember, he said, the Bible says that God is with the lowly.
Yes, man.
And he will move mountains. And it may not feel like it. It may feel like, man, I still have things that I need to deal with. But you have life. And as long as you have life, you have the ability to do that, to deal with those things. All right. I'm
Yes.
Cassandra Burks. You're listening to My City 104.5.